getting in my car, heading home from work, but another time to get to home without getting this out. Virginia, the insane tyrants who have taken over that state have just minutes ago passed an immediate gun ban.
And hello everyone, I'm Dan Lutz, and I'm here on the front lines in the battle against the deep state, the cabal, the Illuminati, and all those that wish to enslave all of mankind for their own selfish, stupid, and really horrible reasons. So here again today is January 12th. So just some remarkable things seem to keep unrolling. There's a blast from the sun. There's more confirmation about what I'd propose as a possible thing about the Iranian shooting down that airliner. It's had 160 people on board. Half of them were Canadians. I'm sure they had Canadian passports. Where were they Canadians? I actually saw Dr. Dave Janda video he was doing, and he was basically suggesting that these were people that were getting out of Dodge, same as I said. So for me, it's just obvious. I didn't really have any backing other than just reading it and immediately kind of focusing in on it. It doesn't quite seem right. And then my friend in the UK said, well, there was a couple of Brits on board, but why why so many Canadians? And that's when it was like, yeah, why so many Canadians? It's not like a tourist route, Canada, Baghdad, Ukraine, we're on our tourist visas here in Baghdad. We're just visiting the green zone. And then we're going to take to the lovely, to Kiev, Ukraine, and take a look at what's around there. And no, something else is wrong with that. So Dave Janda was also saying, with this general out of the way in Iran, the Ayatollah may actually have more flexibility. Interesting, huh? So remove the deep state control terror masters from around the world, and all of a sudden there's some flexibility happening. So that was another thing that had come up, so I thought that was also interesting. So thanks, Operation Freedom and Dr. Dave Janda. Let's see, there was something else I wanted to show. I had this queued up from yesterday and really didn't get to it, but I thought it's well worth looking at. This is a gentleman, the name of the video, it's Virginia passes gun ban at Capitol before VCDL event. Let's listen to this.
There's no time to get to home without getting this out. This is important. Virginia, the insane tyrants who have taken over that state have just minutes ago passed an immediate gun ban for the following areas: the Pocahontas building, the Capitol, and the Capitol grounds through the duration of the 2020 General Assembly legislative session. So, what used to be a gun-friendly area where you could carry into the building and on the grounds has now become an immediate gun ban because these cowards are afraid of facing the music for what they are attempting to perpetrate. So, the VCDL, I'm sure, is aware of this. If you're going to the event in Virginia days from now on the Capitol grounds, it is now a gun-free zone. Shocker that they got this done. They did tell us that this was their first order of business. I kind of put it out there a few times. But definitely, the majority that was bought and paid for by Michael Bloomberg has successfully pulled off their first violation of your constitutional rights in Virginia. The Capitol, the grounds, and the Pocahontas building, not to be confused with Pocahontas, that's here in Massachusetts, that's Liz Warren. But those areas are now immediately turned into gun-free zones. So it is critical for you who actually reside in Virginia and will be going to the lobby day of the VCDL on the 20th of this month. It is absolutely critical that you go see your representatives and hold them accountable for this bullshit. This is crazy. They are so afraid of the people standing up to what they have done and what they promised to do. This is just the first thing to fall. All right, you know what's coming. This is what the first thing that they wanted to do to keep you guys at bay. If you didn't see me last night live with John Patton from the Gun Collective, last night I got news that they're pulling troopers from all around Virginia to be there at the Capitol to protect the governor and the legislature. So there's going to be a very high level of security. And now those cowards in the building are stripping your rights, your constitutionally guaranteed rights given to us by the Creator, because they're afraid. I need a haircut. Wow, this is terrible. But they need a gut check, guys and gals. Virginia, all eyes are on you. They're calling your bluff. They just made it a gun-free zone.
I think that's good enough. So interesting, that they're going to have a rally, right? And just before the rally, they changed the rules, right? Now you can't carry a gun. Now, what are they there to protest? They're there to protest gun confiscation. And then while people are going there, this is the militia, right? We're talking about militias, that have formed, basically put up sanctuary cities, actually sanctuary counties across the state. So it was the majority, 90% plus of these counties basically said, no, we're not going to, we're now going to not go along with these rules you're putting in place. So obviously it's the Constitution is there saying that we have to have well-organized militias for the purpose of opposing government. Because it's not there for hunting. It's not there for self-defense. It's not there in case you get robbed. Although these are perfectly legitimate reasons. But the reason outlined in the Constitution is to go against the government when the government no longer represents the people. And what is the government doing in this case? It's trying to protect itself. No guns in our buildings around here. Giving them, the state troopers that are being called in, the reason to basically disarm people, put them in jail, for their purpose of being there is to protest taking away guns. So, anyway, I wish them all the support, and everyone should participate in this. Now, I don't know when it's over. This was from yesterday, so he said a few days from now. I don't know exactly when that is going to happen. Maybe it's on Monday, or maybe it's a weekend event. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's just interesting to catch what's going on there. So let's move on. Now, again, I'm presenting all of these things that have coming to me by way of our audience that is participating in the Telegram group that is posting these stories. So please, if you, I encourage you to join the Telegram group, and if you have anything interesting that's to keep up on the news items of the day, right, that we must be aware of. And it's far-flung. Right, actually, this next one you'll see. This is for Israel. Now, what this is outlining is a defense system in Israel that actually against missiles. There's the unit. I turned on the music a little bit there. And that's the device. And what they're basically showing, it's almost like a force field, right? But it's basically a certain distance, nothing can go beyond a certain point, and they'll get destroyed. Now, they have many versions of this. They have, so there's 3 like mobile units. They also have them so that they're also, let's skip ahead a little bit. Very quickly it can aim. And it's also, it looks like it's a laser type system. Not exactly sure. And here's one that's actually mounted on a drone. Now some were referring to this as the Iron Dome. I do not know if it's the Iron Dome system, but it was just interesting to see the technology. Now, I don't know if this is already in place or a proposal. Before it even got launched. All right, so that's that one. So let's move on. Now this is now I don't know. This is more about Bill Barr, the Attorney General. So let's see what this
AG Barr reversal stuns millions. Abruptly gives notice. Attorney General William Barr has arguably been the most productive member of President Donald Trump's administration, but a lot of people are demanding answers after the Department of Justice issued a stunning reversal this week regarding General Michael Flynn. Barr's DOJ has abruptly given notice that Flynn, who previously served as Trump's national security advisor, deserves to spend up to half a year behind bars. As noted by the Associated Press, DOJ attorneys laid their reasoning out in a sentencing memo arguing that Flynn was failing to take responsibility for his actions. The timetable here is crucial. Following the 2016 election, Flynn met with Russia's ambassador Sergei Kislyak about sanctions that the Obama administration had imposed. Then Flynn served as a national security advisor for less than a month in 2017 before submitting his resignation in February of that year. In January 2017, Flynn was interviewed about the meeting by now-fired FBI official Peter Strzok. Strzok reported that Flynn made misleading statements, an offense to which he subsequently pled guilty. The DOJ originally recommended that Flynn was eligible to bypass prison time because of his willingness to extensively cooperate with investigators, including former special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia probe.
So I'm going to just stop it there for a moment. So this is first of all, I don't want anyone to think that Flynn has been abandoned by AG Barr at all. Don't think that. But there's a lot of things that are going on that are more about tactics and timing. So the reversal also has to do with Flynn saying, right, that he's not guilty now, right? So now the offer that was on the table, right, to go lenient on him with no jail time was because he was going to cooperate. Well, cooperate with saying something that was not correct because they were leaning on him, threatening his children and other things to get him to go along with it. So don't think that this has anything at all to do with them coming down on Barr coming down on Flynn. It's not about that, right? But it is interesting to see that this laid out here. It was good, well done. That's why I wanted to present it. So I'll go ahead and continue with it.
Now the DOJ has taken issue with Flynn's legal team's attacks on the Mueller investigation in recent months. Indeed, the government has reason to believe, through representations by the defendant's counsel, that the defendant has retreated from his acceptance of responsibility in this case regarding his lies to the FBI, prosecutors said when asking for a sentence of up to 6 months. For that reason, the memo continues, the government asks this court to inquire of the defendant as to whether he maintains those apparent statements of innocence or whether he disavows them and fully accepts responsibility for his criminal conduct. In their sentencing memo, government lawyers say the interview between Flynn and Strzok was predicated on legitimate grounds. There are countless issues surrounding Strzok, his role in the Russia probe, and this interview he had with Flynn. Strzok served as the #2 counterintelligence analyst at the FBI before being fired from Mueller's team after an internal probe found that he had sent hundreds of anti-Trump text messages to Lisa Page, a former lawyer at the FBI with whom he was having an affair. In several of those messages to Page, Strzok called Trump supporters a bunch of ignorant hillbillies, spoke about an insurance policy in the case that Trump won the election, mentioned a secret society to unseat a duly elected president, and implied that he and others at the Bureau would never let Trump be president. Beyond that, Trump has subtly suggested that he's open to issuing a pardon for Flynn because he was treated very unfair in the Russia probe. While speaking to reporters on Christmas Eve, the president expressed sympathy toward former associates Roger Stone and Flynn amid speculation over whether he might consider pardons in connection with the Russia investigation he calls a witch hunt. Am I going to pardon him? Well, I hadn't thought of it, Trump said. I think it's very tough what they did compared to what they do to other people on their side. Many are calling on Trump to pardon them all after he likely wins re-election in 2020. What do you think about this?
There we go. All right, so let's see what's the next one on here. So this one is an excellent video that's come out. Now, this is about vaccinations and the rest of this, but it's a very well documented, and he believes, this is January 9th, so it just came out, right? Who is lying to you? It's very well put together, 2-hour video. If you want to give something to a doctor and say, hey, check this out, this would be the one. I'm only going to play just a minute of it, just to see what we're hearing.
I don't know how no one in media is covering this. If I stop you on the street, you'll say, oh yeah, I don't trust pharma. Pharma, they try to poison us. They just want us on drugs all the time. What is it though when we say vaccines? We're like, oh no, I believe in vaccines. Is there fetal cell lines being used in vaccines by the king, by the godfather of vaccines? Here it is, in his own words, clocking on vaccines.
In your entire career, how many fetuses have you worked with?
Well, I don't remember the exact number, but quite a few when we were studying them originally before we decided to use them to make vaccines.
This study involved 74 fetuses, correct?
I don't remember exactly how many, 76.
End of story.
All right. So his name is Del Bigtree. So I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but the high wire with Del Bigtree. So please look that up. Anyway, he's got 50. This has 57,000 views. It's only been a couple of days, so he's got a big audience. It's really well put together. So I encourage everyone to take a look at this. All right. Now this is another interesting set of tweeters. Is the tweets. Several tweets came out talking about, was Robert De Niro arrested? Interesting. Well, I don't know if it's true, but there are some conversations that people are saying here. So who was just arrested? The Joker? Where did Robert D. or that? I don't know, AVDN, his real name, I don't know what that is. I bet he has a twin. I see a lot of this is hidden. Who is who and who comes from what and where, and how many Hollywood elites our tests think. So anyway, so that was like one thread. So then I did, well, let me take a look. Was he arrested, right? I went to search. The only thing I could find, right, that was in it, this was from February 11th, 1998, De Niro held questioned in Paris over a prostitution ring, is what it was. It says vice ring, but it was a prostitution. I read through, part of this article. So, there, some sort of history related to it, but nothing else, nothing, right? Now, along the same line, same one here, I am. It said, how many arrests will be made in the next 24 hours? 33 or 33,000? You all cry out for help and justice. Here you go. Here you all go. Life is beautiful. All right. So he's referencing this tweet where we have radical.
What's that? Wait, Dan.
Yes.
I'm sorry, man. Hey, what's up?
Yeah.
What's that from that you just read?
This is a tweet
From.
from I am POA at Triot23.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I can. I'll share my video with you. Take a look.
Sorry, I didn't mean to disturb your flow. I just.
No, it's okay. There was just before this. There was another tweet where was Robert De Niro just arrested in Phoenix? So I tried to do a search, and I found nothing. The only thing I found on Robert De Niro was something from 1999 or 98, was it? Where he was picked up in Paris in association with a international prostitution ring. And he was held for like 9 hours, so, but that was it. But nothing about Phoenix or anything else. And then, this same poster was talking about how many arrests will there be in the next 24 hours, 33 or 33,000, right?
And that was posted when, today?
Yeah. Right?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, this is
Hopefully it's somebody in the know. I don't know.
Seems fresh. So this is January 12th, 2020. So yeah. Anyway, so I was just reading what what Donald Trump was saying in his tweet. Where have all the radical left do nothing Democrats gone when they have all spent the last 3 days defending the life of Qasem Soleimani, one of the worst terrorists in the history and the father of the roadside bomb. He was also looking to do big future damage. Dems are unhinged. So I don't know why is that related to this, but it was kind of interesting. But you scroll down to hear this. I thought this was interesting. It's I guess like God's word translation, right? And so Joshua provided people with 33,000 sheep and goats to be sacrificed as Passover offerings for all those who were present. In addition, he provided 3,000 bulls. These animals were the king's property. So I don't know how to really put that together, but it was just I just found it interesting. Again, these are just things that came into the Telegram group WWG1 WGA Love.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And let's see. Now this is another one interesting. Now this is Tom Hanks' son.
Right.
All right.
The big Illuminati tattoo on his chest.
Yeah. And it's kind of like someone had made another post about him saying, I come from a satanic. Oh, here it is, right up here. So my family and I are all part of a satanic pedo cult. What do you want us to do? Tattoo it across our chests, right? Of course, it's tattooed across the chest. It's got a lot of it. It says, "I am who I am," is what's the words around his neck there. But yeah, it's kind of interesting, the whole thing there. It's a family event, or it's there's just another one where sunrise just happened to show up looking like devil horns.
Wow, that is weird.
Well, yeah, but it's just an optical illusion, right?
No, but it's cool though. It was a cool image. So yeah.
It's like, all right. And here we go. How do we predict how do we protect witnesses against the deep state if this is what happens to their wives and families? Why would anyone want to testify against the cabal if their families can't be protected, right? And they show this. So it's, this was hit by a truck carrying cement. So
this is a witness of someone witnessing against the cabal.
Right. It was the family. Yeah. I guess the wife. So Ford Range was broadsided by a Freightliner semi towing 2 loads of cement. I had my ear to my heart for the most of the last 100 minutes for her life. I heard her take her last breath and heard the last beat of her heart. Mine is broken. Dr. Robert Epstein.
Wow, that's too bad.
Yeah. So, but it is a battle. This is a war. I think this also this is the Australian fires. Which I think this is something that they're doing again. To get people out of the rural areas. They're going to blame fires. Everyone has to be corralled into the cities where they can be easily vaccinated. So this is just talking. This is more about the tragedy of the animals. 1.5 billion animals have been lost.
Oh.
Now this is Trump putting out a tweet in Persian.
Really?
Yeah. Translated, it says the Iranian government should allow human rights groups to monitor and report on the current reality of protests in the Iranian people. We should not see the peaceful killing of protesters again, or the internet shutdown.
The world is watching now.
Yeah,
It's interesting. There's a.
I think the wording is a little bit odd there, though. I think it's just a translation because I said we should not see the peaceful killing of protesters. I think it should be we should not see the killing of peaceful protesters. But that's one of those.
Right, yeah, right, not peaceful killing.
So,
Hey, we're just peacefully killing people off here.
yeah. So.
I just saw something about Iran too with this woman who was I forget what they said. It was like the 198th woman who was executed for defending herself from being raped.
Yeah. It's very odd there, right? There. So I think that I think things are about to change. Earlier I talked about Dr. Dave Janda. He has a new report out, and he talked about covered what I was talking about yesterday, with this Iranian shooting down this plane that was half filled, with I don't know how many, 60 or 70 Canadians, and the others were from Iraq. That this plane leaving Iran was half filled with Iraqis, not Iranians, Iraqis, and half filled with Canadians, leaving Iran, going to the Ukraine. So there's something odd with that, right? And he was making the suggestion that these people were deep state actors, right? And that they were getting out of Dodge, just as I had said. And that
Very interesting.
And that the killing of this general is something that clears the way for things to happen. So pretty much, everything I had said, Dave Janda just kind of backed up. So that was interesting. So
that would be very interesting. What I've talked to Kim about this before about who is in charge of the cabal now when you had all the real, of all this different action. So I wonder if that's who it is. Because I remember there was a while there where we thought Kim thought it might be Jesper Ellerman for a while, and there's different characters it could have been. I mean, I'm sure she knew, but she was probably just leading me down a path. But interesting.
All right. Well, I'm going to go through a couple more stories here.
It's all been proven by witness testimony.
No, I'm actually not going to play through this, but Patrick Howley, he's going to do something out there about the Nexium story. So if someone wants to catch that, and then fake news and the Social Democrats would have you believe that President Trump is going to start World War III. Maybe you should ask the terrorists on the ground over Iraq, and can you find them? So here's an interesting. So I'm just going over the stories that were presented, so people can join the group WWG1WGA and get this information, because I can't get it from YouTube by looking, right? Not easily. But this is a way that you can find this information. And just covering it kind of gives kind of a highlight of what's going on there, at least until you show up. then we can talk about other things. All right. Here's one on chemtrails. Right. They've been caught using chemical warfare on Americans. This is why we're all sick and with autoimmune disorders, cancer. Why they attack us from the moment we begin breathing with chemicals in the air, and vaccines mandatory. Those have been too sick and mind controlled to believe. So, more interesting things. This gets into a Q post, right, and talking about military law versus common law. Criminal law, and then when did POTUS make a statement? Can't see the whole thing. The calm before the storm. When was Hoover activated by Sessions? All right, so really, it's talking about going after the Clinton Foundation, and that's basically about to break, is what they're leading up to here. And let's see. Again, this is Australian. Another story about Australia. Really devastating. The poor animals. They're dying in this. They call it. So they referred to a jihad fire. All right. I think that's about it. Yeah. This guy was talking about the gun. They put a gun ban in place in Virginia, in the Capitol buildings, where there was a big protest of all the militia coming there, right, to protest. And they said, okay, we're have a gun ban in all of our buildings now, so you can't come in with guns. They're bringing all the state troopers and things like that. So he was just giving the alert that they just did that. That was yesterday. Okay, well, that is that. So, well, welcome aboard here, Tank. Maybe we'll get the timing down a little bit better. I tried to get on here earlier to, talk about all of these things, so I'll get them out of the way before you get on.
No, that's really good, man. That's the Telegram group that you put that?
No, just all from the Telegram group. Right? And so the things that are posted there, I'm just calling them up before I go on air, and then just reveal what's there, and then add some commentary along the way. So at least because as I said, I wasn't getting anything from my YouTube feed, right? Whatever they wanted to put on my dietary plan, it's giving me an upset stomach. So I decided I would just start going through only what's being presented through the group. And at least then there's a better chance of getting to some information from the people, right? That say, hey, here's a good story. Here's a good story.
I'm gonna have to pin that to the top of my page, man. I have roughly 1,000 groups right now that I've been included in, which I appreciate people including me, but there's no possible way I can keep up with it. But
yeah.
But that was really good. I think that was some good updates.
Yeah, I know that I heard that Lisa was so happy that you pinned her to the top of the list of your list. So, but I guess I'm not pinned.
Well, am I in that group? I don't even.
No. On your own Telegram, you haven't pinned me to the top. So, but you did pin Lisa.
Yeah.
So
I am.
So I know I can't send you a message anymore. So that's why I was going. So now I can.
Just
I have to contact your secretary.
Yeah, right. No, man. I have all of my top. Everything I have pinned in that group in my Telegram. You can only pin 5.
I know.
So
I'm just not in the top
work.
5. I know. I'm just not in the top 5. I got it.
Well, I figure I talk to you every day, so we'll catch up when I get there.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time, though. It's like I've only got 5 spots, and I need about 25. So
right on.
Yeah, so I just have to search for names, and that's okay. But yeah, I got way too many in there that I can't keep up with them either. But if I do, you can set it up so that no one can add you to a group. You change your privacy settings, but the problem is that no one can add you to a group.
Right, exactly. I actually I love it. I mean, just when I get a chance to go through these things, I find a lot of really amazing things. You know, so like when I like every now and again I have some people that send me some great stuff from like, we have an Australian group and I have a group in England. I mean groups all over the world actually, and like every now and again I'll see that there's like a build up of like 400 messages. I'll go through it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Should check this sooner.
Yeah. Well, I was listening also to Thomas is trying to catch up on his end of the year broadcast and also what he gave yesterday. I didn't finish the one from yesterday. So, well, at least the one that showed up. I guess it was his Thursday broadcast. So, any news that we should be aware of?
I have not a single message from Kim today. I did ask, what happened when the latest when nothing happened yesterday, right?
Mm.
So now they've done this. Now, for anyone who's paid attention, the original Dan and Tank experiment, right, started with GCR, the Big Lie, and then became DANK, and now is the front lines, right? And it's so interesting is that originally it was 15 days, right, from March 1st to March 15th, I think, that they told Kim, if the Chinese elders don't perform in the next 15 days, we'll go with you. So Dan and I thought, hey man, we'll do 15 episodes. It's great. And I was like, I've never done that before. That's awesome, Dan. So 15 I thought was going to be a lot. And here we are 311 later.
311.
Yeah. So, cultural shift, to say the least. But, they're always doing this, right? They play this game perpetually. And, but they're always waiting on some new alignment with the moon and Uranus and everything else. So, right now, I guess they were waiting on whatever this current issue is. I mean, they were waiting on the Ring of Fire eclipse, right? Which I guess is when, you have they're blocking out the sun. So I guess they were thinking they would absorb energy from the black sun or something, right? So, I don't know. So I guess, like they thought something was going to happen, like their galactic, saviors were going to come down to rescue them.
And
so wondering if today.
Yeah. I was going to say, all we heard was wah, wah.
Right. And nothing, right? So, that's what I'm waiting for to hear from her. So I asked her about it, just to see, so what was her response? Because you'd like to think something would happen, right? That they would acknowledge, okay, look, we know nothing happened, right? At some point, we gotta move forward, right? So but I didn't get anything back from her yet. So I'm sure she's busy doing other things, getting ready to launch her number. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm looking at all the signs and all the things that are happening, just like you said, and I think arrest would be a good sign. It's hard to tell from the mainstream, right? Like what is really solid. I mean,
yeah, I have no idea if anything that came through there was correct or whatever, but there was a couple references to the same thing, right? And then, so I'm not surprised that I wouldn't find anything either. That doesn't make me think that it's not real, just because it's not there. It just means that they've either censored it already, which would make sense, or it's something that hasn't happened. I'm either way, but I do think arrests are to be soon, and I don't think it's Flynn being thrown in jail, because I covered that as well. But his because he kind of reversed his plea. They had a deal on the table, and so the State Department Department of Justice is withdrawing the offer, right? Because you're not cooperating anymore, so now we're recommending jail time. So I was just saying, people, don't worry about it, right? That he's not going to jail. This is just part of the things that the process has to go through, as he withdrew his not being guilty. I mean, he would do his guilty plea to say that he's not guilty.
Well, to me, it's kind of like General Flynn is just kind of holding his ground and do not settle, do not compromise. I mean, and I'll tell you what, I feel that way to everyone out there about any case you go into. If they offer you a settlement, it means that you got them. Don't settle. Because right now is the time where we have to change the laws, we have to change the way things are done, we have to change the perspective, and
we have to remove the people that are already in office. We have to put new people.
Absolutely.
So even the ones that we really know that have been there for a while and we want to trust them and everything, even they have to go. I'm sorry, the whole thing has to be replaced. Everyone has to be voted in. Even Trey Gowdy. I loved him being in there. I love Gates being in there, right? But at a certain point, you need those warriors at a certain point. But at another point, we need to change everyone that's there. There's other places that they can serve us, right, and work for the people. It doesn't have to be in that seat. We need to have new blood, and all of them have to go, especially the ones that have been there for ancient times, right? Been there for 40 years, like Dianne Feinstein, right? What reason, can she possibly, being able to be kept in that position?
Wasn't she texting Iran officials immediately after meetings and stuff? She got busted for it.
Yeah. So she's they're all so corrupt. Every one of them has to go. As I said, there's a handful of great people. All right, fine. We want to keep them. No problem. Let's keep them. But
hey, what do you think? What do you think about this, man? Did you see this quote here? Watching these massive crowds across Iran chanting "Death to Soleimani" is more than a bit odd after being told how revered and inspiring he was to the population just last week by many in the U.S. media.
Yeah,
isn't that that's very interesting. I didn't know that they were chanting "Death to Soleimani." Every time you see Iran, all you see is "Death to America," right?
Right.
Well, inspire.
Yeah, but people don't. It's like the one of the other things that was shown is I don't know which, whether it was CNN or MSNBC, whatever it was. They drew upon quotes from the woman who was during the original hostage taking back in 1979. She was the spokesperson for the terrorists. Right? They're interviewing her now about what the feelings in Iranians are against what happened with the general, right? So Soleimani is killed, and she's there saying, "Oh, this is we're gonna take revenge and all this." Why are you interviewing her? Obviously it's not the people, right? It's like the woman that video I pulled up 2 days ago, right? She was of the people, right? She says people are very happy that he's gone. And that they killed 1,500. This general killed 1,500 protesters in Iran, peaceful protesters. So that's
wow.
So those 1,500 are going to be now turn into 1.5 million. As they come out, and the people are going to take this as the time to change.
I got to point something else out too that I really feel is a very understated thing, and I don't know if people really understand this is going on. But somebody made this point, why there's all these programs going on in the name of, I guess, tolerance, right? Around all these different schools around the country, where they're forcing kids, right, to dress in Islamic, headgear for a day, or to observe, to learn about Islam, right? And somebody made this point. I thought it was so simple and so brilliant. Why is Islam allowed in the schools and no other religion is?
Right.
I'm now think about it, that's dangerous. Now, this speaks to the vaccines, actually, right? You can see how they use the vaccines to remove religious freedoms, right?
Right.
So now you don't even have the choice. Like you can't say no. That's a pretty amazing setup when you start to see all these pieces come together and what they're trying to do. And really, I really believe that just by observing it and pointing it out, you can completely negate it. You know, I mean, obviously it's going to require action on our part, but my gosh, some of the stuff is just like, really, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
so there's a video I put up about vaccines from Del Bigtree, I think is how you say it.
Oh yeah, Del Bigtree. We're supposed to reach out to him, actually.
Yeah, the video he just put out yesterday, amazing, 2 hours, but it's well edited, well put together. All the CDC admitting that they haven't done tests. Really, it just all the evidence, from word of from the actual people, that would be cited as the responsible people, admitting that that we don't have safety tests, those kind of things at the CDC and World Health Organization, and so they have them on camera admitting it.
Is that Vax 2?
No.
Vax 2 movie?
No.
No, it's something different. Vax 2. Wow.
Yeah, it's just new. It's out new. Just yesterday or the day before. It's only a couple of days old.
Wow.
Something about they tell a big lie or something like that. It's just I highly suggest looking that one up. Or it's in the WWG1 WGA.love group in Telegram. You'll find it there. Actually, a couple of people posted it a couple times. So yeah, it's very powerful. I sent it to my daughter right away because I said you can give this to a doctor when they want to challenge you about it. Right?
That's really, I mean, it's really breathtaking when I think about it. I mean, it really is. It's like how is that possible? That much? I mean, everyone should be. I don't want to say terrified, but they should be,
highly concerned.
Annie, get your guns, kind of thing, right? Like you should be ready to take up arms when you realize that you have this organization that claims that their claim to fame, right, is like contagion, right? Like that they're, that they are, that there's no, like I was hearing about this, like you were talking about it, I think, right? Like the Contagion, how the whole idea of this movie Contagion was this very realistic seeding for the public, about what would happen in a dramatic event of disease. And I obviously I take this stuff very personally because they're playing this out in New York right now as we speak.
Right.
Right. And at the same time, it's like, well, what is the voice of reason, with all this happening that's public, right? That actually has a platform to talk about it and is making this a priority because it's a big deal.
Right.
It's like they're doing this right now.
So one of the other things that I picked up that I really didn't catch before was that when they first started these vaccine programs, what they were concerned with back then was that if you start immunizing people, right, and it is selective immunizations, right, it's not natural, right, and they become less likely to work over time, right? So you have to keep changing these vaccines, right, to make them more adaptable because your body is no longer working. But the ultimate effect is that it actually breaks down your natural ability to develop immunities. Right, so you end up replacing. Now they have over 200 vaccines on, heading out, into, everybody's, that they want everyone to take. So 200, out of, they have 7 or 50 of them now, something like that. They're trying to push out into people's, to get vaccinated for. But at the end of the day, everyone is way worse off because you can no longer develop natural immunities, right? You basically, your body, or we as a species, ends up losing our ability to adapt. So the only way we can fight disease is by way of vaccine. So I thought that was horrifying, right? Yeah, and
It
plus,
is horrifying.
and plus, it's not that effective, right? And they're admitting that they don't have the studies.
Well, and you really can't justify, and there's nothing to even compare it to, because you don't have real data. I mean, you could go back to, there's a book that was written in 1895, right? And in 1895, this book comes out and it talks about the dangers of vaccines, and all the various harmful things. And it's so extensive, right? It's so well written that if I didn't tell you it was from 1895, you wouldn't have known, right? Because I guess in my mind, I assumed that would be lesser medical. You'd think we'd come a long way,
Right.
but the author did the research is so thorough, right? They have real studies to show the vaccines are dangerous, right? And even in the like where they were forced vaccinating back then was the same way they are now. They were taking kids from orphanages, right? Now we've just increased the number of kids in orphans, right? By taking them from their families altogether, right? But I mean, in the way that they were using it, the data that was gathered, when they actually looked at fair data from populations of similar background, vaccines, the death toll was significantly higher, from kids who were vaccinated versus the other way around. And they had no less response from the actual diseases they were taking. They actually had more. More kids would get the disease, And back then it was a little bit, you had a different kind of population, right? Like where maybe it wasn't as sanitary, I guess. So you have these massive death tolls of like kids all the time because people would be. Now that was in Europe too, so but I mean it's amazing. It's like the only studies you really have are all against vaccines.
Yeah, one of the other people in this World Health Organization, it was one of the videos that they were showing, is a doctor from Nigeria, and he was just saying, do you have any studies that show like what happens when you have, because you're talking about the bad effects of one antigen added to a vaccine and how you don't know what's going to happen, right? And there's not really studies for it. So he's listening to this and he says, well, what about when you're taking all of these different, average, 11 vaccines in Nigeria that they make them take, right? They have this schedule for. And so what is the correlation between the different antigens that you've added between the different manufacturers of different vaccines? What happens when they mix? Well, what's the study that shows that they're safe to be mixed together? Nothing. So we don't have that. We don't have that. Listen, I said nothing. We don't have that. It's one sentence. The guy spoke for like 10 minutes and didn't say anything other than that. It was just a bunch of words thrown together to basically say, he did say that they don't have it, that they didn't do it. There's something that we should do, we'll have to look at that. We'll have to in the future at some point because it's important, but we haven't done it yet. So
that's that's a really amazing. That's a great point, Dan. That's something I'm going to shoot that video tomorrow, maybe tonight. Yeah. You know what? A very simple video, like a commercial. Like, okay, the CDC says this many vaccines are scheduled in the first 6 months of your child's birth. I believe there's 9 scheduled for the first 6 months of a child of their life, right?
Yeah.
The same CDC also says 9 vaccines or multiple vaccines should never be given that close together. So there's a conflict there already.
Right.
And then the studies that the CDC is using to show that they're absolutely this must happen, they don't exist. Right. According to the CDC, period. Yeah. There is no study. There is no, and I have a theory about this, right? That if you were to take all of the vaccines combined, right, in the schedule the way they are, I believe that they are not separate or unique. I believe that they are all designed to bring about the same outcome, but they're all really one super drug, right? And they're designed to create something different.
Right. So it's like mixing the two.
Biologics.
Yeah, having the reaction be you're the crucible that everything gets mixed up in, and the reaction happens inside the body.
Right. You're just the, you're just the petri dish where everything's being put together.
Yeah. Yeah. Then
That's a terrifying concept.
And then one day we'll do the study to see what happens. That's their reaction. One day we'll that's important. It's good you brought that up. One day we should take a look at that.
Yeah. But right now we're too busy counting money, so we can't. Right? So they're just too busy. There's too many vaccines. Like they would be, this is where, this is a very, very, very important thing to be put out there, is that where you have such a massive conflict of interest, right? According to, the Constitution, you cannot mandate anything that you profit from as a member of Congress or the government, right? So they're a foreign agent that's working to support the Constitution. That's their whole job, right? The Constitution is to protect our rights. So now you have them, they're profiting, right? Because you have taxes they profit from, right? And the whole government. You have the actual CDC, FDA, HHS group, they make royalties, right? It's well documented that their executives, if they hold the patent, their executives are allowed to make up to $150,000 a year in royalties on vaccines, which they are saying are mandatory, but have not taken the time to study. That is just such an alarming statistic. I'm like, well, so what would be the reason for that?
Well,
it sounds like bribery, really, to approve.
Well, even so I just highly suggest everyone watch this because this video really, I think, lays it out so well. And I downloaded it as well because he suggested everyone do it because his other videos got taken off of YouTube. So I downloaded it. I'm going to upload it again, so that we can pass it around. So I suggest everyone do the same and get this out into the hands of everyone that possibly can. All right, so that this gets out there. We got to get people to download it and give it out to the people in the schools, right? In the school councils or wherever they're trying to basically grab the kids from. Right? Every pediatrician. One of the other things that was in this was in the World Health Organization. They said, here's this study by this one system that basically shows how the progression is of the vaxxers against the anti-vaxxers against those who are undecided, and the growth of anti-vax information and people adopting the stance of anti-vax is 500% higher than for the pro-vaxxers. So we're winning the argument, right? And that's what they were trying to say. Well, we can't call them anti-vaxxers anymore, is what they were leading up to, right? Because it's true that we don't have the evidence to show, right? So they're basically admitting it. So we have to change our tactic on the way to get people onto the pro-vax side because they're losing the pro-vax argument. So,
right.
So one of their tactics will be not to say anti-vaxxers anymore because we're coming at them with a negative. We have to basically say that they need more information, and we have to admit that we don't have all the studies.
Yeah.
So that we're not lying to people, right? So we can't win this argument from where we're at. That's what they were saying.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, there's no way to whenever I hear that, I'm like, who's really arguing for vaccines anymore? But I guess they must be, right? But what I think is the greatest setup ever is what the United Nations said, is that disinformation is one of the most, about vaccines is one of the most deadly things to humankind. And I think that is absolutely correct. And with that in mind, I would ask the United Nations to please stop putting out disinformation.
Right.
So, like, I mean, because if you think about it, it really explains their exact agenda, right? Because
Right.
they're the ones that are promoting them with absolutely no studies to back them up. And then they also are the same ones saying, this is one of the most deadly things for everybody.
Right. Well, that was another thing in this video. They were saying that they were trying to enlist Facebook and Google to stop the misinformation. And she said the problem is that it's not misinformation.
Right.
That's their problem with getting the help from them, because it's actually true. So,
Actually, that's a great point. I'm going to make sure to bring that up to Facebook. I think that might be my next target, because it would make a lot of sense to send them notice that if by shutting down, or actually forcing them to identify what exactly are you defining as misinformation about vaccines.
right.
And if you're going to say that people that are saying there's no studies on vaccines, well, that's not misinformation, right? That's
Right.
true.
Right.
Now, how could you shut that down? Because think about it, even if you're pro-vax or anti-vax and you're a media organization, you probably have to explain if you came out with a simple message that clear, right? And you didn't state a stance one way or another. You just said, this is what the United Nations says is dangerous, and we want to make sure that we support that. We support that truth of the United Nations put out. One of the most deadly things is this. And then you said there's no studies done.
Right.
And if there's no studies done, how could you possibly draw any conclusions?
Right.
That's fascinating. I mean, that is amazing when you think about it.
Well, and actually, I wonder if you can take this to court. Because we literally we have the argument, right? And the government doesn't like to prove, doesn't like to admit when they're wrong, right? So they're always going to look for the political way out of this. So how do you basically present it in by coming up with the court decision, all right, something like that gets them to go along with what's really going on? Now, the other agenda thing, how can they don't want to admit that there's some part of some evil agenda, right? That's part of the big problem here, right? Well, I'm not with the deep state that's trying to basically, wipe out, 90% of the population of the planet with this plan that, Bill Gates agreed that this was the way to do it. It was, to depopulate by way of vaccines, right? So they need to have a way out, right? So what is their way? If we can have a court, rule something, then it gives them to say, oh, well, the court said so, right? They pass the buck. They don't like to, admit that they were wrong or anything like that. So we have to do something to force them into basically, going back from these positions. I mean, even the positions that they're taking, they seem logical, right? Most of these people are not, on the bandwagon of the cabal, right? They're too low level, right? It's the people up at the very top, right, that are causing, these people to, go with this faulty information.
I think we don't allow them to pass the buck. I think what we do is we fire them, right? Every single government official who is currently in the employment of the American people, because we pay their bills, right? So that's the way it works, right? Like, you collect taxes from us and we pay your salaries. So every single one of the individuals in the government who is currently in the government system, we are going to give you a mathematical guarantee. Right now, math is not something that can be debated in the reality, right? Basic principles, we agree that the number 2 represents 2 items, right?
Right.
And so if we say 2 plus 2 equals 4, and we demonstrate, well, there's 2 items here, and there's 2 more items here, and that equals 4 items, and we all agree that the numbers equals these symbols, right? That the number 4 equals 4 items. Now, we all agree that that is a universal language. That is a fact. So, being that those are the facts, we define those terms, math is not debatable, right? It is what it is. Now, so if we were to take that same exact principle and apply it to the CDC and the FDA. So first, the very first thing is, this is what you were required to do, right? So that's the first thing. You did not do it, period, right? So your authority, or your, not authority, but your the privilege that you were afforded to have all liability removed, which, you know, was given to you by the Congress, which again they don't have the authority to do.
Right.
See, all these things, these are they're mathematical, they're exact, they're precise. This is what it says. This is what you did. You failed. Right?
I think that's going into something I touched upon. I think I kind of said, if Trump was to make an executive order that basically would wipe out any laws or regulations that were built upon some law that was put in place in which they were supposed to conduct studies and they never did, but now all this other law is built on top of it, right? So if they never did the studies to basically prove that it was a necessary thing, or that, you know, whatever the law was, that everything else that was related and this was based upon has to be, now basically made, not in effect anymore, like to make it unlaw, right? So all the structure, everything.
Right.
So I brought up medical the use of marijuana for medicine, right? It's a Schedule I drug, and to be Schedule 1, it had to be tested to get there to show that it has no medical benefit. No tests were done, so it can't be Schedule 1. Now that's just one instance, right? This same policy is what they do is they keep making these laws, and on the face of it, it may seem legitimate, right? Yeah, if this is really bad, let's test it, and if it's bad, we won't do it. But if it's not tested, and they just said, well, it's bad just because we said it was, no, you need to do the test. So, but this happens through government all the time, and they base all sorts of everything. The whole industry of criminality of marijuana is how much wasted billions of dollars and people's lives destroyed based upon a harmless plant, right? That actually it's actually a beneficial plant, right? Sure. Because it basically interfered with textiles, oil, medicine, pharmaceuticals rather, right? Fuel, all these other uses that it was being used for, and they needed to get rid of it. And it took all this time for them to manage a way to basically make it illegal over decades of time, to the point where basically when Nixon finally basically made the DEA and turned them loose on it, right? It was actually used as a political weapon against hippies, right? But that wasn't what it was. Why it was being made illegal. They had previously done it before with the Stamp Act, right? They basically said, well, in order for you to grow it, you have to get a stamp, right? But you can't have. But you had to have the stamp from the previous year, right, to grow what you have this year. So that when they put in the law, they said, so anything that you had prior, right, is not included. So in other words, you can't get a new stamp because you didn't get a stamp last year. Right?
So
no one could get a stamp. That was ruled unconstitutional, but it took 30 years to go through the Supreme Court, right? Until they finally basically said, okay, well, we can't use that, that's gone. But still, they had already made it illegal throughout everybody's actions, right? Because they just got everyone to agree. But that kind of legislation is not valid. It's a fraud on the whole population. It's a government fraud.
Well, that's a great point, and that is why it is so essential for lawful America, or an expansion of whatever that becomes, and really the common law court system, the National Liberty Alliance, the actual constitutional government to be put in place, not even put in place, but to be enforced. It's in place. The problem is that no one really knew it, right?
Right.
We don't really teach the Constitution anymore, right? We don't teach constitutional law. We don't even put an emphasis. They're taking the time to make sure that our kids know that you have to accept every kind of sexual random orientation, no matter how ridiculous it is, that you can basically declare yourself to be a jet ski. It doesn't matter, right? Like, you could be anything, and they want all of us to accept that. That's being imposed. But we don't teach them that you have the right to free speech, right? This is a right that's afforded to you. We don't teach them that you have the right to defend yourself. And you can see in places like Iran, right, where, we just talked about how this woman defended herself from being raped and was executed for it. So you can see, well, what's the trajectory of what is possible when this happens? Well, you can see we're already imposing Islamic values and principles and forcing people to be, to be tolerant of this religious, dogma.
Right.
But we don't allow any other religion in school. But it's so subtle, people they're already indoctrinated to believe.
Right.
If you're not totally if you don't just, bow down to accepting everything we say, that you're a racist.
Right.
And that's the big thing, right? Because we made racism one of the worst things anyone could be, right? And I thought about this, though. I have a genius argument on racism, by the way.
Me too. I was just went over this yesterday, so good. We can compare notes.
Tell me yours first, because mine it will be more funny than will be.
All right. Okay. Well, so anytime anyone's gonna basically call me a racist, and I would basically say, how dare you? I only believe in one race, the human race, right? And don't try and put a color on me because I'm pink. Right, and everybody agrees with me. I've been trying this off on my I have a very big Nigerian following, right? Right, and they have a lot of racism against whites, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so I'll bring things up, and if someone is in their group and they're saying bad things about me and saying because I'm white, and I'll say, how dare they? I'm pink. Right, and everyone laughs, right? Because it's true. I'm really pink.
Yeah. No. Well, okay. So this is right in line with that, actually. So my sons were 4 years old, right? Now they were 4 years old, and they grew up in Queens, right? And so we were in Queens. I mean, they're 13 now, but they were 4-year-olds then, and we'd only ever been in Queens. Now our religion that we attended to for my whole adult life was 95% black, right? So in their world, my son's world, my son Jordan, when he was 4 years old, he was the only child in an all-black gospel choir of adults, right? Because he wanted to sing. Mm-hmm. So he sang, no issue. I traveled around the country speaking at all types of venues, and it was always almost a 99% black congregation, right? But now that's how I saw it, right? But my 4-year-olds, my twin sons, right? They were talking about their friend at school, and they were saying, oh, you know him, he's brown. And I thought, brown. So I thought maybe they meant like the neighborhood, because our neighborhood was like 50-50, like Indian and Irish, right? So I thought they meant the neighborhood kid, like he was brown colored skin, right?
Right.
And they were like, no. They said, no, Dad, he's darker brown. And I was like, it's genius, right? It's genius. Because the way they saw it was, they had a friend that we would have called black. But in reality, the terms black and white, putting these colors on people, mm-hmm. Black was associated with, evil, with ignorance, right? With darkness, with secrets. So they put that label black. But really, there's no such thing. You've never seen, except for, black face, right? They even painted, the images of black. They forced black people to wear blackface. right? Actually carve their skin down and make them blacker, right? So what it did is it drowned out their features, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they did this intentionally to use this language. So everything that was bad, black, and everything that was good and righteous, holy, and light was white, right? To black and white. But the reality is, and my son taught me this years ago. There's brown, right? And I realized now you could say and start a movement in the black community and say, well, everybody, why don't we stop saying black? Why don't we stop calling, black people black and start saying we're brown? But I'm like, you could never say that as a white person. Luckily, though, I'm not white. I'm just a lighter color brown.
I'm pink, so I'm okay with saying it.
But the point is, even yours can really, if you just look at it like, well, what we have in common,
yeah,
it's a brown and just a lighter color brown. Now, if it was just that, we were just all kind of brownish, right?
Okay, so let me bring up something. Now, I spent a lot of time in India, and I used to tell the Indians that you are the most racist people on the planet.
I bet that won you a lot of friends.
Oh, it did, yeah, really, because they were really shocked, right? And I said, you are so racist, you're so racist against yourselves. You denote, shades of color, as to say who is higher than who, and you put, the most white as being the most high.
Yeah.
And they don't, I didn't really get disagreement. They kind of saw my point. Right, because it was still part of the class systems, and you had the untouchables. You couldn't even touch them, right? That they were.
You still got that down in New Orleans.
Yeah.
You have something called the paper bag, test, right? If you're darker than this paper bag, you couldn't come in.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's common. That's common.
But it's something that they deal with in their own way, right? So they've still have a class system, but they've gotten rid of the officially, right, from the government, but still it still persists. And this is a generational thing, right? So over time, that will disappear, right?
Right.
But it was just something that I would point out. Is that and anyway, I didn't mean it in such a negative way. It's always there's a way of looking at things and how the progress has been made right there, right? But I have met some very dark individuals. I mean, in shade of color, right? To where I could say that I really met some black people. But most of the people I know, they're just not quite brown, and they're not black, right? But they're definitely a shades in between. How much melanin is in their skin, right?
A teaspoon.
Right.
The difference between an albino and seal, right? Like I just use seal as an example. Someone that most people know who's dark.
How dare
right?
you?
or like Minute Goal, right?
Yeah,
It's really dark. He came from a tribe of very dark people in Africa, right? Yeah. And I would say it's a teaspoon of melanin. That's the difference.
Well, I've met some very dark people in India that are black.
Yeah, sure. Well, I feel like it gets to a certain color, and it's like it's purple, right? That's what my my black friends always say. Like so dark that you're purple.
Yeah. Well, I know sometimes I'm actually red if I had too much sun, and I look like a lobster.
No, yeah, you definitely. I can see you get red, but you're definitely pink.
I'm pink. Yeah, I'm very pink. I also think it has something to do with my jovial nature, right? Because I'm always in a laughing mood, right? So it brings a lot of blood flow, like when you're laughing.
I agree.
Yeah. So I
think
it has something to do with it. So, we never know what we're going to talk about.
I don't know if that's always good. It always works in our favor, but yeah, some days it does.
I think for the most part,
Yeah, I like it. It's fine. you know, people don't have to tune in if they don't like it. It's fine with me. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's interesting. How many are tuning in right? Let's see where we're at. We're at 86 right now. So everyone, hit the likes. We're only at 29 likes. Whatever. There's 86 of you there. Come on, hit the like button.
the like button.
Oh, maybe they don't like this one though. That might have been the case. So use your judgment. If you really didn't like the conversation today, you don't have to do it. You can put the thumbs down if you really, really have to. But I'm taking names.
Yeah.
Which is impossible. You don't have that ability. Yeah. So it could be. Someday.
Could be.
Okay, well, anything else?
That's all I got, man. Always a pleasure. Good talk, actually. I enjoyed that.
Sounds good. All right, everyone. I look forward to tomorrow on Tank. Hopefully, we get an update from Kim. Yeah.
I fully expect good news rolling our way. So I'll let you know when it hits. I'll talk to you all later.
Yeah,
Peace out from New York.
Tell
Have
him,
a good night, Dan.
Yeah, just be sure to tell Kim that account is still waiting.